obviously I'm not the best with technology. All right. Okay, and we're recording. Reza, welcome to the podcast. Before we start and before we give you a nice intro, um, I do want to clarify that Reza was one of the key voices, in fact, the main voice, which after me being a guest on his podcast, he got me to get back into my podcasting game and start everything up. So kudos to you. Thank you for your influence on me restarting the Heerbz and Co show or starting the Heerbz and Co show. How are you, sir?
Love it. Thank you for having me here, bud. Really, really appreciate you, having me on here. We've spoken on and off the podcast a lot, so very excited to be here. And again, thank you for having me.
No, I've been super excited, man. So me and you share very similar mindsets. That's one key thing that I think everyone can notice easily. But just to give the audience some background, Reza, you are a consultant. I don't know the firm that you work for. I'll let you kind of break that down shortly for us as well. You're a consultant, but you're quite active. You know, you've got your own Instagram as well, which I really enjoy. You've got different guests on as well. We're going to plug that in as well. And on top of that, yeah, like your content, your tweets. I absolutely love the tweets that you share. Guys, you need to follow Reza on Instagram or Twitter. And the tweets that he shares are like super bits of informational, just the knowledge you need for the week. So again, many thanks for joining. Tell me about your background. Let's dive in, man.
Sounds good, Hugo. Thank you. So I am a management consultant by trade. That's my career. What I studied in university is industrial engineering. So basically, you understand systems on a very high level, and understand how they work, all of the different components, and then work towards making those systems work better. Now, in the concept of consulting, what consulting really is, I always say it's like being a doctor but for organizations. So you go in and you figure out what are the pain points and the pain and the symptoms that the company or the organization you're studying is experiencing, and then from there you go on to recommend and implement different solutions to alleviate that pain. That's really on a high level what management consulting is about. And I currently work at the Poirier Group. So it's a boutique consulting firm, very similar to, let's say, the work that the Big Four does, KPMG,
Right.
Deloitte, EY, but it's on a lower, like smaller scale. And the nature of the work, though, is very similar.
Okay, awesome. So it's really funny because quite a few people that I've spoken to, they said that I would be good in consulting because, especially with my current role, I'm an accountant by trade, management accountant. And what I started doing in this business, thanks to the former MDs I had, which are unbelievable, former Merrill Lynch guys, super smart people. They started getting me involved with different parts of the business. They're like, all right, how can we make the business more efficient? What can we focus on? The operational side of things, technology, which I'm not maybe the greatest at, but I would work with the IT team to see what can we implement. A
Hmm.
good example is the so we had accounting clients as well on top of the normal professional services that we offered. We had accounting clients, and I got the idea. I was like, we should move our onboarding to this software that we have, which is one of the key things that we sell. And I just realized this is the part of my job that I really love is looking for efficient for opportunities to make quite efficient. And
Hmm.
it's tough because again, being an accountant by trade and looking for this, it's tough for employers to offer this. And that's one key element that scares employers because I have been going through interviews recently and they're like, we are afraid that we can't offer you enough at the role because you're just going to be in that finance function. And that sucks to hear. So I've always been intrigued with management consulting and what you guys get up to. And I suppose one key thing is you must be super up to date with current trends in the industry if you want to apply that to a business. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, first of all, going back to your first point, you would make a great management consultant. And based on what I know about you, for a lot of reasons. One is because you're a very social person, you have good, social skills. And relationship management is one of the key pillars of management consulting. The second thing is problem solving and critical thinking. So I know you also have a knack for looking at problems and coming up with good solutions for them. So that's another reason why I think you would be a good consultant.
I
The
appreciate
third
that,
thing,
brother.
which I think is very important, is curiosity. I also know, and it strikes me that you are a very curious person. You like to explore things and learn them very fast, which is another important thing. So going back to your point about being up to date with current trends, for example, I think that that's very important. So being curious would definitely help you, which you
Yeah.
are.
I appreciate that. Likewise, man. I can just sense it. And I mean, it's one of the cool things of life. Like you got to be curious about everything that's going on. It's not necessarily, I don't want to use the term, yeah, I'm always learning and everything, but we are always learning. There's
Mhm.
so much. I mean, I find I have so many interests, and there's newer ones that are appearing, like for example NFTs, which we're going to dive into shortly. But
100%, 100%.
I
Another
want to
another point that I
go on.
wanted to add here, Both, is that the fact that you're comfortable diving into, an area where you don't have much of a grasp already shows that you have a growth mindset. Because if you have a fixed mindset, you would be like, I don't know anything about this area, so I'd rather not really touch it or dip my toes. But then
Yeah,
people with a growth mindset, they're like, hey, I don't know anything about this, and that's exciting. So let me go and dive more and absorb as much as I can.
I'm really interested that you just said that, by the way. So I really wish, Reza, more people had that growth mindset, because I have so many talented friends, as I'm sure you do as well, that I feel like they've set these invisible walls for themselves because of having that fixed mindset, and because of one of the key things is fear of failure. You know, if I dive into a new topic, what if I fail in this? What will people say about me? What, you
Mhm.
know, these are all like barriers where it's like, in my head, or the way I operate, of course, everyone's different. I'm thinking, right, okay, if you fail, you can go try something else, or you can try something else after that. You know, just keep doing it until you hit the jackpot. And I don't mean that financially, but something that satisfies you. So
Yeah,
don't,
100%. I remember when we talked last time on my podcast, you said that, and this was very important because I was reading Jordan Peterson's book, 12 More Rules for Life, the new one. Very good book. Haven't finished it yet, but definitely recommend it. Over there, he talked about the value of being the fool, and the fool being the person who starts from ground zero and builds his way up in any area. And one thing you said last time is you don't mind, not knowing something and being an amateur at something. It actually excites you. Not even that you don't mind, even further
it's a
to
good
that, it
feeling.
excites you. And that's also very important for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a great feeling, man. And yeah, I definitely love it. I did have one question on consulting again. Is what drove you into it? What was it, always consulting? Was it an opportunity that just popped up, or did you have it in mind? Did you have that target while you were studying? You're like, this is where I'm going to end up.
Yeah, so it's funny because when I was in second year in industrial engineering, U of T, there was a lot of info sessions. Companies like EY, KPMG, McKinsey, they would come and have information sessions. Back then, I was just starting to get acquainted with consulting. And one of the things that I will always hear is, no, no, you have to have a very high GPA, and it's only the elite students who would get in. And I didn't have a high GPA at all. So that even made me want to explore what this is and what all the hype about it is, right? So by second, third year, I started getting very interested, mainly because it was project based and that you hop from one project to the other. You're not always doing one thing. And then on top of that, you're also meeting a lot of cool people from different industries, sitting at the table with, C-level execs, being in board meetings, understanding different problems in different areas, different industries. That very much excited me. So I'm like, I definitely want to get into this instead of just having a regular 9 to 5 job.
That's super valuable, man. I'm really happy that that kind of sparked it for you, and then you went and followed it. And for anyone listening, this is the best kind of sales pitch you'll get for consulting. Well done, man. But no, congrats
100%.
on getting in as
I
well.
think it's very valuable. I think it's very valuable, especially in this day and age. Someone said the most important skill that you can have is how to learn things quickly, but also how to unlearn things quickly. And I think consulting, just like any other professional services, even being a doctor, you always have to learn and read and research. Otherwise, you're gonna go obsolete.
You stagnate, exactly, and that was one of the key drivers into why I initially decided to hand my notice in with my current job,
Hmm.
which again, for reasons I can't dive into while recording, could continue. But it's the fear of stagnating and not growing anymore, regardless of what you do. I just feel like if you're not at least challenging yourself by 1% a day, that 1% rule is one of my favorite things in life. It's just improve 1%. Like
Oh,
that Michael Phelps theory. I love that
compound
guy.
compound interest over time. That's
Exactly,
crazy.
exactly. Whether you apply to your life or investments, what is it? What did Warren Buffett say? It's like the eighth wonder of the world or something.
Yeah,
Compound interest.
it's the eighth wonder of the world. Yeah, compound interest. I mean, I get that now. Before I was like, what does he mean? It's not that interest. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually something, you know, you need to
Exactly.
think about.
No, it's awesome, man. And um, I also I wanted to stay on consulting a bit more because for me, I'm just so intrigued by it.
Of course.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a management consultant?
Some of the biggest challenges, I would say learning things quickly and then unlearning them. That's actually one thing because you're in a fast-paced environment. So you constantly have to be up to speed, right? But at the same time, while you're doing that, you need to be functional for your day-to-day job as well. So you're doing your day-to-day job, you're meeting people, meeting clients, satisfying both internal and external like stakeholder expectations. But at the same time, once you're done with that, you're not really done. You still need to continue learning and reading in your own off time regarding a myriad of different topics, right?
Yeah,
So that's one of the things that I would say has been challenging. Another is just the competitive environment of consulting in general. You're faced with a lot of competition in terms of both your coworkers and other people you're working with being absolutely brilliant people, right? So just being in that kind of space, you're always running and always trying to sharpen your knife. So if you don't have the level of conscientiousness that's required to sit down and actually get work done, then that's going to be very tough. And one thing about conscientiousness, just this whole point of focusing, I think focusing has been something that I've been challenged with, and it's been very challenging for me over the past few years, especially with so much stimuli around us.
yeah.
I think that's the make or break factor, and that's not just with consulting, but I think it's big in consulting as well. Just being able to focus, sit
With
down and do
everything
your
in this
work.
day and age, man. Have you read the book Hooked?
No.
If you haven't, you'll like it because it dives into how they build habit forming products,
Oh.
and you just see how like they try and stimulate your brain with these short variable rewards to keep you on these apps and everything. And that's, I mean, I suffer from that. I'm constantly on my phone. And there's a gentleman I spoke to recently. I think he's got a podcast as well. Really smart guy. He actually specifically said, and he's not just the first person. There's people that have like weekends that they're off social media. They
Hmm.
take breaks from social media. I'm too much of a social media advocate in terms of it's great for business if you use it wisely. So I don't think I can ever take a step back and say no, I'm going to take a break from it. Never say never, but for now, my mindset is okay. Just try and reduce the hours, but be aware. Now,
See,
with the,
that's the same with me. It's very difficult, but I think that it's worth pursuing. I think that I mean, when you said hooked, it reminded me of Social Dilemma on Netflix, just showing you
yeah, good
how, you know,
documentary.
yeah, very good documentary. I think that it's important. Everyone says, you know, social media is good as long as you use it well, but then no one really uses it well. Or like, at least for me, I waste a lot of time on social media and I'm aware of it, just figuring out different ways that I can reduce that, you know?
Paralysis by analysis.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But so one thing I want to touch up on that you mentioned, and it's something we can both relate to. So you said like in management consulting, you need to kind of be aware of what's going on in your industry, constantly be on the ball. First of all, the challenge that you mentioned about, it being a competitive kind of environment with your colleagues being so brilliant and everything. I absolutely love that. And that is one of the key things I loved about my current job to a certain point is because of those MDs that I had from investment banking, the because of the colleagues I had as well, which are brilliant people. you're like, it's sink or swim. I need to push as much as I can. But then again, going back to compound, suddenly 6 months later, you're like, me compared to the person I was 6 months ago, I'm so much better. I'm so much more advanced. I know way more. And
Mhm.
if that's not a gift, I don't know what is. I'll take that over pay any other day. Of course, we still all want pay.
Of
But
course.
work-life balance is the key highlight. Because when you clock in and clock out, and generally with your field and my field, the hours are longer.
Hmm.
You're exhausted and you go home, but now you have to go and research what's going on in your industry or the specific project that you're working on. How did you find the work-life balance?
To be honest, I didn't fully find the work-life balance that I was looking for. I'm still kind of imbalanced in terms of how much I work. And even when I'm not working, I am still working because in the background, in my mind, things are still, gears are still shifting. So one of the ways that I try to deal with it is through hobbies, right? So just getting your work, your brain off work through any sort of thing that calms you down. It can be through exercising, through doing various forms of, I don't know, creativity, through just doing nothing, right? Just meditation. And there's this Dutch term, it's called higi or something like that,
Right.
where it literally means doing nothing. So sitting down and consciously being aware that you're just sitting down, you're not doing anything. And that has definitely helped. But overall, I would say that in consulting, just as with any other professional services, there is an aspect of imbalance
Yeah.
in work and life, right? So that's kind of my take on it.
It's a shift in mindset as well. I found myself at the beginning, you kind of wear it like a badge, like, yeah, I worked this many hours. I mean, I was probably someone like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was showing off about it before, but then as I get older, my mindset changed, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Fair enough, when you need to do a job, you need to do a job, but
hmm,
then it reaches a point you can't even enjoy your weekends because Saturdays and Sundays you're thinking about Monday. You're thinking, oh, maybe if
exactly.
I get up a few hours earlier, I can like get this prepped before the meetings that we have. And that was probably another big driver in me handing in my notice, because I was like, it's just not worth me giving this company my personal life. And for the longest time ever, Reza, my mindset was, I didn't believe I was an entrepreneur. I think I had some creative skills. I think I developed great kind of commercial and operational skills through this job, and some soft skills that I've had, but I never expected to put everything together, and I still haven't. And I always enjoyed being an employee. I didn't
Mhm.
mind kind of being, going up the corporate ladder. I reached a point during this employment where I was like, look, first of all, you can only go so high, and then politics get involved, and you need to play the game to kind
Right.
of get ahead. But then it's like, you're giving away your life, you're slaving away. I don't want to say slaving away, because a lot of careers also pay you handsomely for those hours, but is it really worth it? Is it worth you losing, it affecting your relationship, your health? Is it really worth getting paid a certain amount to do the hours that you're doing when you take a holistic view at this whole thing?
Man, I don't think it's worth it. You mentioned you get paid good money for these long hours, but if you really divide the number of, or divide the money that you're getting by the number of hours you're working, it's probably close to like minimum wage,
Yeah, exactly. I said that to someone recently, actually. It's funny you brought it up. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And I think it is kind of a organized modern day slavery in a sense. It's not, yeah, I mean, it's controversial to say things like that, but it does very much resemble slavery in a sense, because the hours that you're putting in working for that organization, it's not just the hours. Like you said, you're putting in your youth, you're putting in your life, you're putting in your energy. So at some point, maybe it's time to jump ship and start your own thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I wanted to lead into. It's like, now I'm thinking, okay, if you ever want to reach a point of a lot of wealth, let's say that, and I'm not one to say, oh, I want to drive my Lamborghinis left and right. Of course, with the crypto profits, we all do. But
Man.
the day will come. But it's more, you start appreciating time, and you're like, I
Mhm.
want to reach a financial stage in my life where I have more time to spend on the hobbies I have, on jiu-jitsu, for example, on traveling to these different places. Like uh, reading Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Work Week, is one of the most impactful books I've ever read in my life. I read it a few years back, and that's when I really started appreciating the value of time. And then through this job, I reached a point I was like, okay, I no longer want to be that employee. I want to work towards something, either via my investments or maybe even start a business and get that financial freedom. And I don't believe in that passive income bullshit that people sell you every day. Look, passive income, yes. Dividends, absolutely. Build yourself a nice dividend ETF portfolio and live off the income from that, or rental income, for example. That I do find as passive income. But any Shopify store you have or anything, it needs work, man. It
It
definitely
does.
needs work. You can't just take a step back and expect everything to kind of play out. It's
Yeah.
got attention issues, everything. But reaching a point where it's like your asset, your thing, killing yourself for your business, that I find is worth it.
It is. You're right. It is worth it because you can potentially get paid, a lot more for it in the long run. But not just that. It's not really about just reaping the financial benefits. I think there's an aspect of motivation and an aspect of it has higher value. It holds some sort of a higher value when you know that you're sweating, but it's for your own sake. It's you're sweating equity. It's for you
Exactly.
at the end of the day, and you're the one driving that vision to completion, whatever that vision may be. So I think that it's worth it to pursue a journey like that, not just on the financial front. It's going to be on a lot more dimensions where it's going to be worth it compared to, let's say, just working a 9 to 5 job.
Absolutely. Like paying off your mortgage. The more time that goes by, the more payments that you make, you get a bigger piece of that property. Because former manager of mine said, when they asked him, "Oh, how many houses have you got?" He's like, "I don't have." He had two houses, but he describes it as, "I don't have any houses. The bank has two houses. I'm paying the mortgage for those two houses." So yeah,
Exactly.
you appreciate it.
That's the thing. And at the same time, you need to look at the flip side of this, though. I think many people have kind of a very rainbowy lens on entrepreneurship. They think that it's going to be easy. I think that you do need to build some sort of a foundation, unless you really got a natural talent for it. You do have to build that foundation of knowledge uh, to be prepared to build your own startup, a successful one. And I think that does come from being exposed to a lot of long hours of 9 to 5 jobs and speaking with different people, learning, applying yourself, and staying consistent on that path until you're ready to pull the trigger and like, okay, now I can stand up on my own feet and get this going.
Absolutely. On that, by the way, so I want to dive into your brain some more. What is what is I don't want to make this sound like a job interview. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? But um, do you have any goals for the next stage or like a future stage? The reason I say do you is because for the longest time I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do next. So, what is your plan? If you're happy with sharing it, by the way, do you want to reach a point where you start your own thing, or do you want to ride this corporate ladder wave and see where you get to through that? Is there anything like in the timeline for you?
Yeah, it's always a very tricky question for me because I always feel like I need to have a definite answer. And when I don't, I feel guilty about the fact that I still don't know exactly where I want to be. Let's say,
I don't know either, so you're fine.
do that, you know what I mean? Like in the next 5 to 10 years, there is so much that can happen, especially in this fast paced world that we're living in and all of these different things popping up, different trends. And actually, to that point, I think it does create some sort of a FOMO feeling where you feel like you really are missing out on a lot of things that are happening. And I don't think that's healthy. So I am trying to really put my head down and focus on the things that I have in front of me and see what I can do. But to answer your question, I think at the current pace that I'm going, I'm going to continue what I'm doing while on the side, uh, you know, dabbling in a lot of different things to figure out where I can double down and invest on, whether it's in terms of investments or hobbies or different side hustles that I can build. And as those start to develop and clear out as to what the potential is, then leaving the 9 to 5 job, right? Or right now it's more like 5 to 9, but really, but I'm eventually going to leave the corporate world. I don't think that my spirit necessarily matches the requirements of the corporate world. I'm good at it. I can monetize my skills, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my soul is at peace
Yeah,
day in day out doing this kind of work. So yeah,
I
in
feel you,
short,
brother.
in short, eventually I do want to leave and start my own thing, for sure.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. I appreciate where you're at. I feel like I'm probably like maybe 4 or 5 months ahead of you in terms of the timeline of where we are. Um, I did feel a lot better once I handed in my notice. So this is a rare kind of announcement. Some people have heard this already, but after handing in my notice, I made a clear decision. I don't care if the whole house burns down. I am clocking out at 5 p.m. 9 to 5. I've actually been doing 9 to 5 for the last 3 months. You need to try it sometime. It's amazing. So no more
That's
early
it, man.
mornings till
I
late
think
nights,
that's
man.
important for sure.
But it's affected my health. I feel so much better now to where I was pre-January. I mean, that was a whole different story, and you're carrying work with you into the weekend. And mental health, I suppose, is the next bit I want to dive into, related to what we just discussed. So I liked how you said you deal with it by, you know, taking up new activities and focusing on something else like jujitsu. I know you do that, for
Hmm.
example, but how has it affected your mental health? Like, do you feel, besides the strain that it's had, have you been, what's the word for it? Okay. Like, how have you been handling it?
I haven't been handling it really well, to be honest. And maybe not everyone is like me. I tend to have like this habit of overthinking, maybe over intellectualizing everything, like you said, analysis by paralysis and things like that. And it's been apparent even within my own organization that I am the one who usually doesn't deal with these things on a mental level really well. Although I always lean into it and come out successful, that doesn't mean that it's something sustainable. I don't think that it's sustainable in the long run to live like that. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be when I have a wife and a few kids, trying to deal with all the things at home, dealing with work. I think it's very important to figure out moving forward how you want to prioritize the decisions that you're having and how they're affecting first and foremost your mental and physical health, because if those two are not checked, then you're really not going to be in for the long run.
Absolutely. And I can vouch for one of those things, and that's the wife element. So it does reach a point, whereas before, when you don't have that extra responsibility, yeah, you can throw your whole kind of personal life into work and everything. But then when you have a wife, when there's an other person that you live with and everything, you need to focus on that other person as well.
Hmm.
And it's unfair to them. Of course, it's you two are building a life and a future together, whereas this is just the next job. Who knows how long you're going to be at this company? And we both know a company can replace you like that. You do end up being a number. I mean, it's better with the smaller firms, of course, but with the big corporates, which is the company that acquired us,
Hmm.
I started seeing that people are just numbers. So um, I found it challenging because you want to work on your side hustles. You're putting so much into your normal 5 to 9 job, as you said. I really like that. And then you have your wife and you have plans to discuss together. You have a future that you want to discuss together. You reach a point where you're just mentally exhausted. And this is the tough part. You reach a kind of crossroad to say something needs to be sacrificed. And that is the toughest part of things. But then it became so much easier when I was like, this job that I'm working, I am putting money into someone else's pocket. Yes, I'm getting great experience for my future. I've learned so much, but
Hmm.
end of the day, I can be replaced. I'm putting money in someone else's pocket, and this is the area where I think should be sacrificed. It's tough for everyone to make that decision, especially earlier on in their career. I think people do need to go through those long hour grinds to appreciate the life after that. So kudos to you for the fact that you're still there and hanging on and keeping on. But it's tough for a lot of people. Like some of my colleagues can't quit because of the current economic crisis, and they're afraid of finding jobs. So it's a really tough balance.
It is a very tough balance. And you mentioned you and your wife and all the side hustles and all the other things that you need to juggle. I think it's very important to be able to manage your energy levels, and it becomes tough, especially if you're in that kind of environment. The energy levels are tough. Like, how are you going to give energy to the rest of the people in your life when work is taking up so much of
Yeah,
that? So I'm hoping even corporate jobs in the future are more cognizant of this fact. I think we are heading towards a place where mental health, energy levels, just in general, are becoming more of a priority. So hopefully, as we move
absolutely.
forward, there's going to be new ways that we can architect and integrate this into our day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. There's so many workplaces that are currently doing it, but I think the key domino that just fell was the Goldman Sachs employees complaining. I mean, if Goldman, they are for everyone, for us at least, they're the peak of long hours. Like you don't get worse than Goldman in terms of long hours, and
Yeah.
the if it's like a badge, like if you've worked at Goldman, you automatically step in line in front of everyone else because you've been
Hmm.
through that experience. So the fact that they have complained, that's going to be a game changer in my opinion, in specifically in the financial services industry, because that's where you really get these long hours, or in the consulting industry as well. So I'm keen to see what happens going forward from this. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
super
same.
interesting.
I certainly hope so. I think, whenever someone asks me how do you deal with these things, and tell me more about what we can do to uh, balance some of these different problems out. I always like to have the answer, but I don't have the answers. So all I'm
Yeah,
left with is to be able to just express where I'm at right now and be able to say I'm figuring it out myself as well. But it's really nice if you can have the answers, be able to just give it in small chunks and have people understand the way forward. But
yeah.
at this point in time, I'm just figuring it out myself, really.
I get you, man. On a more technical level, by the way, when people ask you for answers, being an accountant sucks in this form that people ask you for tax advice, for certain, all these different pieces of bits and bobs. But you're like, listen, just like there's digital marketing and all these different types of marketing, there are different types of accountants. I am not a tax advisor. I can't give you advice of what to do with your taxes. And people, especially from the Iranian culture that we come from, they're like, oh, but aren't you an accountant? Yes, in the corporate world, I do management accounting. We look at forecasts and budgeting. We don't do tax filings on a
Dude, this
day-to-day
this
basis.
this this reminds me, whenever I go back to Iran, let's say the elevator is broken, or like the TV, let's say, or whatever is not working. Like, oh, you're an engineer. Yes, I'm an engineer, but I don't know how to fix an elevator. What are you talking about?
It's you gotta love that from the Middle East, man. The
Yeah.
expectations they have that just because you've looked at a book that says this, you can build like a skyscraper. That's it. Why can't you do this? Come on. Um, so
Absolutely.
so one other thing that's very interesting to me, I obviously had a great time being on your podcast, guys. By the way, I'm going to link that episode as well. What drove you to start doing your podcast? And I've seen you've spoken to some really, really intelligent people as well. So, what was the drive to say, look, I'm going to start a podcast right now? And was it maybe some of the books that you've read? I think we read so many similar books. It's crazy.
Yeah, we do for
What
sure.
was the driver for you?
So I'll just start from the very, very base.
Go for it.
As a teenager back in Dubai, I always used to have these like 4 or 5 hour long conversations during just one day. We would have like a 4 or 5 hour conversation with my friend, just talking about different things, right? Like movies and philosophy and our future and things like that. And since that age, I started having a certain appreciation and propensity towards conversation and conversing with people, because a lot of good ideas pop out of that, but also that connection and that bond that you have with that person really strengthens. It's a very quality time when you have good conversation, right? So that was one of the reasons. But then the other one was for myself to meet interesting people and be able to form different connections in a sense and learn from them. Because I think one thing that's very underappreciated is social, what do you call it, social assets, right?
Yeah,
I think that having a good social circle in and of itself is super important to the quality of your life. How much value you're able to add to that community and how much value that community is able to add to you, I think that's very priceless. And then the third thing was, again, kind of selfish, but I did want to learn how to articulate myself and be able to share my thoughts in a way that is very systematic. I didn't want to be scatter-minded or talk all over the place, go on different tangents. So that's the third reason. And the fourth one was, again, the art of being present when someone is speaking. I didn't really have that. I always wanted to, listen to respond rather than listen to understand. And I think when you do a podcast, it kind of forces you to be present and grounded, really listen to what the other person is saying, which again, I think is a skill that's important in all walks of life.
absolutely. That number four, I totally relate to. That's probably one of my weakest elements. And it's fantastic that you had this mindset coming out of Dubai. For the people that don't understand, the mindset in Dubai can be so constrained into this small thing of you live a specific lifestyle and there's a certain way to speak, there's a certain culture to it.
Yeah.
Look, don't get me wrong, we've had some tremendous memories there. It's I'll always consider it home. It's what they built there is unbelievable. It's amazing, but the culture can be a bit draining sometimes. So to have your mindset and come out of there thinking, okay, this is what I need to do, or at least this is what I need to try and maybe see if I can vocalize my thoughts better. It's amazing, man. So again, kudos to you for that. But being present is a massive one. And since I made that change, which I still struggle with, like sometimes you do want to say something quickly. We might even experience it in this podcast, but since I've made a conscious decision to focus on being present, it's improved my relationships with my friends and my partner massively. It's such a big change when you are present.
For sure, it's a big change, and I'll be curious to know. I want to ask you. So, do you think it was kind of the podcast or these sorts of conversations that helped you ground you to be more present, or did you actively train for it in other ways as well?
Great question. It was actually a when me and my wife were still dating early on, and I I mentioned in your podcast as well. So there's people that have that voice in their head that is doubting them. I had the opposite. I
Yeah,
thought I
yeah,
was God's gift to the world or something. And that's why it's like when I would have a conversation, I was like, how does this relate to me? A lot of narcissism. That's the
yeah.
best way to describe it. So I had a lot of narcissistic traits. And once me and my wife started dating, it took couple of months or so for her to kind of give me a wake up call and say, look, you feel like this is life is a movie and you're the main actor and everything's about you. And then I thought, I was like, you know what, I do think I'm in a movie right now and I'm the main actor. So after that, obviously I cared about her then, and I was like, I need to make some changes. So that was a wake up call for me. But then after that conversation, I thought about it. I was like, wow, I might not be the good friend I thought I was to all my friends, because I'm always trying to talk over them and see, okay, your story is great. Wait till you hear what I have to say. It's always like, how can everything relate to me? And since I shifted that energy and made a conscious effort to say, look, even though it's great to have confidence and the voice in my head, which is still talking every day, telling you that you're the best, you're everything, by grounding yourself, it feels a lot better. You just have to make yourself kind of understand that it's great to be confident, but it's also good to be humble to certain levels. And everyone's at the same level. People, you need to appreciate them for what they have to say. And I've just found so much more of an interest into other people's stories. I mean, it's fascinating. It's like this kid that just walked into a candy store. It's like everyone has these awesome stories that I want to hear. So that was probably the wake up call for me, and that changed everything. And fast forward, we got married. So yeah,
So shout out to your wife
yeah. Shout out Wasima. She's in the other
for
room,
that
but
call out. I think that's very important, man. Especially since we already know what we know, right? And what we know is so much less than what we don't know. So why not listen and try to see what else we can add to that repertoire of knowledge?
absolutely. I mean, you benefit from it in the end as well. So
Of
why
course,
not? Why not?
100%.
On Dubai, by the way, I wanted to ask you this. What did you find challenging about, or did you find anything challenging about the mindset of Dubai? Did that ever, did it stand out to you? I think it did stand out to everyone. Uh, did you find it challenging at all?
I I did in a way, but I would also say I was fairly young and immature when I left Dubai. So the major portion of my development as a person was here in Toronto. So I left Dubai when I was 18 years old, right?
Okay.
One thing that I did find challenging is in general that bubble that you're in, and that can be anywhere, but you're in this bubble. You think that that's all there is to the world, and you're
Yeah.
in these communities, going in and going out, and you know uh, meeting different people. But at the end of the day, you're still in this bubble where I don't think it helps you grow, or it helps you grow. um, but again, I think that's with every bubble. I think if you get stuck in one group, in one community, then you're susceptible to groupthink and susceptible to seeking validation from the members of that community and basing your decisions based on that. So when I came here and I had to start kind of from zero again, I think there was this big shift in, all right, what are my values? What do I want to be? Who am I? And that really helped.
And how did you find Toronto kind of, you went through this, but how have you found Toronto kind of shaping you into making you who you are right now? Like, how did you find the people around you, your surroundings? What was that like?
The people around me, like when I first came to Toronto, I knew a couple of people from Dubai, but not much else, right? And then it was university where you're exposed to all these different types of people, and naturally you want to be in a circle, right? So you you start with a crew, and you're like, all right, I like these people, I'm gonna stay. And over time, you start thinking, hey, what if I don't like certain aspects of what this community is about. And you start kind of detaching yourself, hopefully, in getting more solitude and understanding who you really are as a person. So, one way that I would say Toronto shaped me is, first of all, living alone and meeting friends and different people. You kind of start to prioritize, again, what you value in life. And that that kind of shaped me, along with a lot of other ups and downs and experiences with drugs and alcohol and addictions and different sort of things. I think that kind of helped me grow a lot, gain perspective
Accessing
on
different
what's
parts of
important.
your brain.
Yeah,
That's the best way to look at it. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. It's like getting a dose of the real world. I say that about London. It's like I always loved visiting Dubai and then coming here and you're like, oh, I'm back to the real world, how things operate here.
exactly. But at the same time, I mean, it's the real world for me here, but I still think that it's important to rise above the bubble that I am in Toronto as well, because everywhere, London is a bubble, Toronto is a
Yeah,
bubble. So
for
when
sure.
you raise yourself above that, that's a lot more valuable than kind of being stuck in that kind of rat race.
Absolutely. And how did you have, I was keen to ask you this the last podcast that we had. How did you and what drove you to get into jiu-jitsu?
Oh, jiu-jitsu, I love that question.
Human chess, as we like to call it.
Definitely, it's human chess. So I actually found jiu-jitsu by mistake, and I was very lucky to have found it. So it was like in 2016 I was looking for an internship, and I applied to so many different jobs. I kept getting rejected, so I had all summer without a job. And I was like, all right, so what do I do? I was walking across this neighborhood on Bloor Street, for those who know Toronto, near Christie Pitts Park. I was just walking along having like my Baskin Robbins ice cream, and the weather was good. I came across this gym. It was like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So I went in and I'm like, I'll give this a try. I signed up for the first lesson, and I fell in love with it right away. So I started reading up on the Gracie families and watching like the Choke documentary and knowing
Great
about
documentary.
Hickson. Very good documentary. And
Hickson
then
the
learning,
best.
yes, I love it. I love Hickson, man. Hickson
His
is
mindset is unbelievable.
he's a
He's a living
samurai.
samurai.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's how I got into it, and ever since then, I didn't really let it go.
Yeah. No, it's I love jiu-jitsu as well. It's a full-on love affair. I suppose I feel that way about all martial arts, really. I really advise everyone to, um, if you do have kids, of course, and if you're listening, get your kids into martial arts. It's
Absolutely.
people, especially nowadays, they underrate how important this is for you. I mean, um, it can be any sports really, though. Like I made some of the closest friends of my life through football, and being Iranian, naturally, you always pull towards that. Uh, Jiu-jitsu, I really got into it. I mean, first I started learning off YouTube because my dad got me involved in kickboxing quite early,
Hmm.
and I was always quite, I had a lot of energy as a kid, especially in school, so I was getting into a lot of fights because I watched, funny story, I watched The Godfather, and this is like in, I don't know, the second third grade or something. Went to school, I was like, all right guys, we need to start a gang. And
Dude,
then
I watched Goodfellas and I said the same thing.
but every day we're like fighting for fun, and it would often get serious. So my dad was like, listen, take a step back, I'm going to put you in these classes, and this is where you're going to release your energy, so you stop doing this. So as I got older, you become more disciplined, which is the cool part of it. And then you reach a point, and the first, I suppose the first exposure I had to was watching a UFC fight, and the first UFC fighter I saw, um, it was Tito Ortiz, and I mean,
Okay.
I love that guy. I bought his shorts at the time, like later on. Tito Ortiz was my guy. Fast forward, I didn't expect he would be such a unintelligent person, but he was definitely great to watch back in the day. And when I decided my first attempt in uni in the UK, which was in a city called Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes is north of London. It's where like KPMG and all these big firms have their offices. So, I mean, they have them in the city as well, but because it's slightly outside London, like less than an hour away, and the city is very Americanized. Like, unlike the rest of the UK, it's like the roads are all straight. It's all rectangles everywhere.
Right.
So you
Crossroads.
feel
Yeah.
like, exactly, you feel like you're in the States or something, and it's quite modern. It's an interesting place. I went to uni nearby there, so um, I I decided to study sports therapy at the time. It's just a
Hmm.
discussion I had with my dad. Bailed out of that after a year, of course. But my university was quite new, so the whole uni had 500 students.
Okay.
My class had 7 people, and out of those 7 people, I mean, after a while, people just don't get along. I mean, there were nice people, but we just didn't get along. So I was like, great. I'm in a city which is not one of the biggest cities in the UK. It's quite small, and there isn't too many people. I'm not too tight with my classmates. And at that point, my mindset was, very jock mindset. Whereas like everyone wanted to study, I was like, I don't want to do this. So I was like, all right, I need to fucking make some friends. And so I was like, what do I do? Great. I always wanted to have like a cage fight then. So I was like, what I'm gonna do is I found out where an MMA gym is. I found out where a jiu-jitsu gym is, and I found out where a boxing gym is. So I was like, great, 6 days a week, 2 days here, 2 days there, 2 days there. That's where I'm going to train. And through jiu-jitsu, which was I forgot the gym name. Yeah, I forgot it, but it was still, you go there and it's glass windows, and you see everything's like steamed up, and you're in a jiu-jitsu gym when
Yeah,
that's
that's
happening.
when you know.
Go in there, and I knew like some basic things I learned from BJ Penn on from his book and stuff. I was buying a lot of books and like reading it, Eddie Bravo and all his moves. And I go in there, I think it was my third, fourth time. I didn't know jack shit, but I knew one move because I was only learning that move, and that was a go-go plata. So the nerve I had to, and that's people when you put your shin under someone's neck and you pull their head down and choke them out. It's like a fancy move. And I pulled that on like the guy was a white belt as well, but he was a white belt that was there for some time. So by doing that, it's like the ego is through the roof. Anyways, fast forward, I always enjoyed putting all these different things together and going to the masters of each kind of um, martial arts. I met some of my closest friends through jiu-jitsu. I made a lot of friends just through these classes. It's by putting myself into an uncomfortable situation because a lot of people have that fear of like, I'm new to this dance class. I'm new to this, I don't know, painting class. That stops them from even taking part. I was like, I want to be the new person in all these classes, as I said to you in your podcast. And I met one of my closest friends who, Greek guy, awesome. I went to his wedding in Athens later on. We became roommates at Milton Keynes, all through a jiu-jitsu class, like putting yourself in that uncomfortable situation. But yeah,
See,
so
that's
that was a driver.
exactly exactly goes back full circle to the fact that you're okay with being an amateur in certain situations, and especially with jiu-jitsu. I mean, if you have a big ego, I would really recommend
That will
that.
ground you.
Yeah, if you think you're tough, if you think you're like big and tough, you need to go do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the toughness strangled out of me in jiu-jitsu for sure in the first session.
100%, man. 100%. And I think there's a certain satisfaction to the struggle as well, you know? It's just
Yeah.
the pressure, and some people find this weird. They're like, how do you get satisfaction out of this? Just the pressure of someone crushing you, and you have to figure out a way to escape that, and come up with your own move, and then go back, and it's just constant flow in and out of these different positions. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, Joe Rogan said it, high level decision making. I think he said MMA is like high level decision making with ultimate consequences, like dire consequences. But
That is a very good way to put it. That is a very good
yeah,
way to put it.
but no, that always drove me into this stuff, and having a fight, like a proper fight, uh, probably the most rewarding experiences ever. Uh, gives you the most addictive rush as well. So again, I will always be thankful for martial arts. I will definitely 100% get my kids into jiu-jitsu. I think
Same,
that's
same here.
probably the best one, in
So
my
so
opinion.
that fight, by the way, do you think you're gonna have another fight, or are you done from MMA?
Unfortunately, I'm definitely done due to promises I've made to people. There's a part of me, if I'm being very honest with you, I still watch fights, and it's you get this itch. So this is me at a minor level. Just imagine how these professional fighters feel when they retire, and then you always see them going back. I get such a small exposure to how they feel because I'm already itching for it to get back in. I was like, oh man, one more. The reason is it's such a roller coaster. It's such, first of all, there's the adrenaline you have to think about, but then it's different periods. Like when I fought in Dubai, I was working a few days a month, and promotion jobs, you make good money from them. So I had the rest. I was like, cool, I'm not going to work for the next 2 months and I'm going to train or something.
Hmm.
But when I had my boxing fights here in the UK, which I had them in York Hall, legendary place. A lot of fighters came up through York Hall. Um, I I had a full time job, so it's a totally different experience when you're clocking into the office and working on your financials or whatever. In the back of your head, you're like, oh shit, someone's training right now to kick my ass in a few weeks. So
Yeah,
it adds
I
that
feel that,
element
man.
to it.
And there's a certain itch to it for sure. Every time I watch UFC, I'm like, I really need to get in that cage right now. Like, I want to be in that position. And I think part of it is illusion, because you always think that, okay, I think I got this, but at the same time, you know that if you get in there, you're gonna get crushed by these guys. It's crazy.
it's it's multiple things. There's and anyone that says they're not afraid, they're lying. But fear is also the addictive part of it. It's similar to riding a roller coaster or like doing a bungee jump, but that bungee jump is like, depending on how long your fight is, 15 minutes long or something.
For
But
sure.
there's the fear of oh, I might get embarrassed in front of my friends. But you're like in a constant mental battle whenever a negative thought creeps in, you override it manually. You're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to kill this guy. Like that these are the conversations you're having internally while you're
Right.
like posting invoices on the computer. But like, exactly. And I found that getting closer to a fight, I don't want to show as much affection. People are different. Me personally, it's like I want to be that kind of rugged person to
Beast.
kind of
Yeah,
have that
that's
chaos.
savage.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
want to be that savage before the fight. So fear of getting embarrassed in front of your friends, fear of getting embarrassed in front of strangers. What if this guy knocks me out in like 2 seconds? You know, and obviously it's being recorded. Majority of the fights I've had have been recorded. There's just a fear of getting hurt, you know, that
Mhm.
exists. It's multiple things, but in the end, and if you have the right opponent, and I became really good friends with my last opponent in the boxing fight. We had 2 fights together, and um, you realize you go through an experience together, and he was afraid, I was afraid. After that journey, you're like, wow, we both got through this together. Yes, we beat the crap out of each other, but I respect you for the process you went through the last few weeks, and you respect me for the process I went through. And then we got here in front of everyone, you know, the pressure of doing this in front of everyone. So your day job, imagine like so many people coming and standing over you and saying, oh, Reza, yeah, we want to see exactly how you do this. So there's so many factors involved. And the fact that we both got through that, it that's why you hug your opponent afterwards. You're like, man, we got through this. And thankfully we became good friends after that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
definitely try it, man.
That's why I really respect. That's why I really respect fighters. And one thing that really pisses me off is people who watch UFC, once or twice, and they're like, "Oh, these are just a bunch of savages. This is like a dog fight or whatever." And I'm like, you don't understand the intricate details of the amount of skill, mental and physical, and even spiritual, that these guys had to develop to be where they are right now. Like, you're not seeing the details. I'm seeing
Yeah.
every single detail that goes into these moves, and it's really admirable.
Just look at someone that you're very close to over there, George St. Pierre. I mean, he's
Dude,
the
that guy's a
pinnacle.
legend.
Yeah, did I tell you I think I posted a story about him. I ran into him in Dubai like literally a couple months ago, and I've never been starstruck meeting a celebrity until I met GSP, because the guy has been so influential in my life and opens a door for me. And he had his mask on. I instantly recognized him. That's GSP. So I looked at him. First of all, I was like, thanks, because he held the door for us. And then I looked at it again. I was like, oh shit, hey man, big fan. And then I had so much to say to him, and nothing came out. And my wife was like walking ahead of me. She turned around, and then I was like, shit, I'm starstruck. I don't know what to tell you. And then I walked away from him. But
dude
he was
dude
very nice.
dude, funny story. I was on a date. I was walking in Yorkville, Toronto area, and I had this bag in my hand, and I was just walking with my date. I actually saw someone, and I just looked once, I looked away, then I looked again. I'm like, this person looks very familiar. And it was George St. Pierre, right? So I was so excited. I told my date, look, hold this bag, whatever. Just, I gave everything to her. I'm like, take my phone. And I went up to George and I'm like, hey, George, listen, I know you don't like to do this, but I'm fanboying really hard right now. And I need a picture with you. So I took a picture and I'm like, listen, man, I listened to your podcast with Joe Rogan. I've watched a lot of your fights. I really, really appreciate, what you do and all of that. I wanted to talk to him about the Khabib fight. I was starstruck like you. I totally forgot about that. And when he left, I'm like, shit, I had to talk to him about the Khabib fight. Didn't happen.
Hey man, it could have been worse. You could have looked like an idiot in front of your wife. So, because she full on heard the conversation, I was like, "Oh shit, I'm starstruck," and she's like standing a meter away from me. So, no, I then you know exactly what we went through. The guy's fantastic.
100%.
But and he is so one thing actually want to ask you about your jiu-jitsu is what from that have you applied in your day job or in life, because GSP is a great element of this. And what you can learn from someone like GSP is he went to a specialist of a certain discipline to improve that part of his discipline, whereas nowadays in a lot of MMA gyms they just teach you everything in this one under one roof. This guy's, I know I need to go to the boxing specialist like Freddie Roach, learn boxing there, go train with the Canadian Olympic wrestling team to improve my wrestling there, I think that's super valuable to apply in whatever field you're in. You're like, okay, cool. If I'm in, I don't know, tech, or if I'm in a, let's say, consulting position, I'm
Mhm.
going to go sit with the tech guys and see what they say. I'm going to learn from them. If I want to learn Excel, maybe go chill with these bankers or like accountants and stuff and put that together. So what have you taken from jiu-jitsu and applied into your own life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Few things I think that have affected me a lot from doing jiu-jitsu. One of them is I don't get I don't get angry very easily. I'm usually like a very calm guy, even in a lot of like tough situations. I just I just manage to stay calm without overreacting to different things. And I think that's in part because of jiu-jitsu, because of martial arts in general. Another thing is doing things right, like doing the right things, but at the right time as well, because there are certain, let's say, moves that you do in jiu-jitsu that they are the right moves, but they're not necessarily at the right time and it just doesn't
I like
work,
that.
right? So that's definitely another thing. And making sure that when you do something, whether it's in your personal life, in your business, in your startup, if it's not working, it doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. It just means that this is something that has not worked, but there's maybe 10 other ways that you can get to that end goal or objective that you have. So just try those things out. It doesn't have to be this one way of doing it necessarily. So don't give up on that.
And that's one of the sound bites of this episode, by the way. You just nailed it, sir. Um,
Right.
so
100%.
one thing we've been dying to discuss, and I know we're both learning in this area,
Okay.
this
NFTs.
NFT craze that's going on. I actually dropped a video about it today. Again, it's just a brief summary of what NFTs are and how people can make money from them. But holy shit, man! I mean, um, like, what are your thoughts? What do you think of
Dude,
this thing?
first of all, I just want to say I really love the videos that you put out. They're very short but very informational, like bite-sized, but it has a bang to it. So I think people should definitely, watch those and get some more information out of them. Just keep that up. Good job with that, seriously.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And dude, one thing that I want to say about NFTs, I just want to talk about the very fundamentals right now. So what they really are, what they represent, because I've had a lot of friends come and tell me, "Oh, what's the difference? I can just take a screenshot and have this in my own computer." I'm like, "No, you're not getting what this really is." So just taking a step back, I think to understand NFTs, you need to understand what the underlying infrastructure that builds these things are. So blockchain, right? So what is that? And then from blockchain, you have cryptocurrencies. And then within cryptocurrencies, you have Ethereum. And then from that, you have like Ether that you can Ether is like a token, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah,
Ether is Ethereum's token. So you use Ethereum to purchase digital assets, right? Like I think what NFTs represent at this point is what the internet represented back in the 2000s. There's a lot of light that needs to be shed on it, but one thing I would say is it's a digital asset, and in the long run it's going to be something like a social currency that you have in a lot of different areas that can appreciate in value. So I think what NFTs are allowing artists to do is what the internet allowed, let's say, musicians and celebrities and influencers do. So it took off that barrier that the radio and television had on talent, and now artists have the ability to monetize and showcase their talents and be able to pay be paid for it in a lot of different ways.
for sure, man. I mentioned this in the video earlier as well. It's like a certificate of authentication. That's my answer to people saying, "Oh, but I can
Certificate
go
of
and copy this." It's like, yes, you can go fully able to copy this digital piece, but I can check the address that it came from. I can say, no, 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 no. Out of all these 100 copies,
yeah.
this one came from Reza's address. So this is a true original Reza. That's just one element of it.
Exactly. It's traceable. It's so if you buy
Exactly.
Elon Musk's tweet, right? If you buy Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk's tweet, I can go take a screenshot of that and sure I can sell it, but that's not where it actually came from. If you trace back the original one, I think that's what holds value. Like you said, certificate of authentication.
For sure. And it's just like the Mona Lisa. Like there's so many copies of the Mona Lisa in Paris when you walk there, but there's that one that's in the museum in the Louvre that is extremely valuable. And just like art, and people, what is an art piece worth? It's a value that someone gives it. People are
Mhm.
like, I'm interested in this piece, and the value drives up. So it's the same with NFTs. But I liked how you said there's so much more to come, and I believe that because my thoughts are a bit like different about this. I partially think it might be in a mini bubble, but in the long run, it's here to stay. And I say that. So I read a great article right before this podcast, which I didn't fully finish, but it was talking about how musicians are going to take advantage of NFTs and kind of skip the middleman and finally be, because they I don't want to say they have a hard time. They still make tremendous amounts of money, but um, they always struggle with record companies, and
Mhm.
NFTs are a great way for them to kind of be
100%.
rewarded for the product they're putting out. One area I think NFTs are really going to do well in the future is concert tickets. That's
Concert tickets.
in yeah, NFTs
Okay.
form of concert tickets. You're like, okay, I don't know, Usher is performing, probably won't be in the future, but some artist is performing. So you buy your concert tickets in the form of an NFT.
Hmm.
It's a digital ticket. You, I suppose, like we already get like digital PDFs or whatever, but you can't replicate the NFTs for
You
concert
can't.
tickets.
No, no, you can't. It's fully unique and it's fully traceable. One thing that I really like when Gary V said, and I think it's important for people thinking about this. You need to be able to separate the micro from the macro. So let's say OpenSea or what was that site, Top Shot for NBA cards, right? Um,
Yeah,
these might not be around in the next 5 to 10 years necessarily, but the concept of NFT and what it represents, I really think it's here to stay. Like the core concept of it makes a lot of sense.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's areas of it which I have my suspicions, like CryptoPunks, but
Oh, CryptoPunks.
yeah, have you got any by the way?
I haven't gotten any, but I'd be curious to know why you're suspicious about it. And then I also want to say something about
So my suspicion comes in the fact that okay, this is the accounting hat on. When I hear the term asset is like, is it income generating? That like just thinking as an accountant, I was like, okay, then it's not an asset. But at the same time, look, Pokemon cards were not assets. Look at the value they've got nowadays. So it's got that whole baseball card, Pokemon cards spiel about
it.
them.
Right.
That is why that's the optimistic part of me where I was like, okay, I do see the value in this. I do see what's going on. But then the other side of me is like, okay, there's so many different NFTs that are being pumped out. Fair enough, CryptoPunks are one of the first few I think
Hmm.
that came out. So on that note, it's like I'm just struggling to see the value. Um, with fair enough, if it's an Elon Musk tweet, fully see the value in that. It's legit from one of the most brilliant people on the planet. You're like, yeah, I've got a piece of that guy. With the CryptoPunks, I'm trying to see it. I kind of see it, but I struggle with it a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
I think CryptoPunks, you are right in a sense. I think 99%, 98% of these, by the way, just letting everyone know, whatever that I'm saying is not fully my own thoughts. These are coming from people that I listen to, like Gary V and all the likes of those people, right? So just putting it out there. But the parts that make sense to me, I'll use as a soundboard to communicate what this really is. I think CryptoPunks, like 98, 99% of them are going to fail. But again, if you look at the macro of this idea, is it allows people to generate their own digital characters and their own digital worlds. And as much as, again, most of them are going to fail, there is going to be a minor group of individuals or people who will create CryptoPunks and the likes of these NFTs that will be as big as Pokemon and Star Wars and all the other fictional characters that we have as our pop culture.
That's a good perspective. Thank you, Reza and Gary V. I need to. I'll be fully honest with you. I know he's been raving on about the purple hat ones, but
Yeah.
I need to go watch some Gary V content on what he has been saying about this whole NFT space and everything. Thing is, I got into Gary Vee quite early. I'll be very honest with you. I zoomed out, like I kind of zoned out of his content because it's just so much content he pumps out.
Dude,
Where,
same.
yeah,
Yeah, he's like on cocaine, man. He
I
talks
swear to
so
God,
much.
man, he's on another gear. So after a while, I was like, yeah, okay, Gary Vee, I like you, I support you, but I'm just gonna step out. But you get a lot of these crappy kind of entrepreneurs, as I forgot the gentleman's name, but he's got a YouTube channel and he highlights them. For example, I don't know if we can actually name them, but there's quite a few dodgy ones where I've kind of challenged these people, like not directly, but what they stand for, and I've had people kind of challenge me and say, "Oh, why are you saying this about this gentleman? Like he's brilliant." People that fucking term of have fun staying poor. And I was like, mate, you are in such a cult right now. You just can't see it. And um, again, no, I think I can say this. For example, Grant Cardone. I listened to his podcast a lot before, and I
Dude,
just
how is he, by the way? Because I have mixed feelings about Grant. I don't know.
I don't see any value in him. Unfortunately, look, it's great. It's nice sound bites. You need to 10x your goals, do this. But I listened to his podcast for a while, and I come from a sales background before accounting, so I'm always like Jordan Belfort. Say what you want about him, but the guy gives you the best technicals to do a good sales pitch and like just be a good salesman. He
Mhm.
breaks it down for you on every single level. Grant Cardone, I listened to his podcast for I think a few months. I never felt more in my life how like that I'd wasted so many hours on a podcast. There was
Dude,
never
I
any
feel you, man.
freaking good content. I, I just couldn't find anything. I was like, dude, where's like the nugget that I'm looking for? At least give me something. I've been listening for freaking months now. All you're doing is saying, "Oh, guys, you got to do this. You got to do this. It's amazing." And I'm like, mate, what is going on? And then
A
it
lot of
really
noise,
got
no
proved to
content. Yeah.
me on that episode with him and Jordan Belfort. I mean, that was. Have you seen that episode?
No.
You will be very interested. Watch that show. You can clearly because you got these two sales titans supposedly, and he goes on Jordan Belfort's show, and Jordan Belfort is like being super nice, and he's like saying, Grant, what would you do in this situation? Just like being very helpful, very nice. Grant went there and he's like challenging everything, not making any sense, looking like an idiot, and Jordan like gave him every single opportunity to like recover and make up for it.
Redeem himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just acted like an absolute tool. And I was like, there you go, people. This is what you've been wasting your money on. But look, everyone's got their hustle. Can't hate on it. I just think
He made a mistake going head to head with the king of sales, man. Like Jordan Belfort is the godfather of like.
absolutely.
Why would you try to do that? He just ruined himself, basically.
Yeah, like I'll give you one of the funniest lines that happened. Like Jordan he wasn't even trying to challenge him. He was just like trying to say like I want to learn more about you. That was
Yeah.
Jordan's vibe, and Jordan was like, okay, so give us like something like what would you do if you go and sell something to someone and they're not interested? What would you do then? And Grant Cardone is like not interested is also a level of interested, and he's like, dude, what? I was like, what
Oh
is this
my
guy
god.
freaking saying? Look, there's a lot of funny sound bites from that episode. Watch it, but I can guarantee you Grant Cardone lost a lot of fans after that episode. It's
I can
very entertaining if you do have time. If you
I
want to
can
take a
I can
step back.
imagine. I'm gonna send you a 25-minute video of Gary talking about NFTs as well. I think
Please.
you'll find it very valuable. And I mean there's gonna be a lot of opportunity, man. I'm excited. I think just like there was a big bubble and we were very young back then with the internet, and then after that, eBay and Amazon and companies like that started popping up and good opportunities for investment. I think it's gonna be the same with NFTs. Right now everyone is kind of scatter-minded, don't know what's happening, but eventually the nugget's gonna pop up.
Yeah, for sure, man. And actually, on that, I don't know if you're already focused on this, but crypto domains, I feel,
Mm.
are a great area to look at and start kind of investing in, especially with the fact that you've got one-off fees to pay, unlike normal domains. Check out the website Unstoppable Domains. That's what you do want to spend some time on. And, that in addition to Google Trends to see what's popular, I mean, all the, one-word domains, the website's already taken it itself and they're selling them at a proper premium for like
Mhm.
10K, 5K or something. But any other ones that you can find, it's the perfect time to get in. It's like the Wild West.
Yeah,
So definitely check
you
it out.
mentioned that in your video as well today when I was watching, and I wanted to ask you. So we don't know what's going to be the .com of the crypto world, though, right? We still don't know that.
We
So
don't, yeah,
how are we gonna? I mean, like there's dot Ethereum, there's dot crypto, there's a lot of other ones, right? I
yeah.
that's the one thing that I'm not sure like which one is going to really be the one they're gonna settle on.
That's a good one. I think .eth, obviously, it's got a massive advantage already from the
Mhm.
dominant network that Ethereum has. And then crypto, because look, it's got a nice sound to it. Everyone does want to say, look, I'm involved in this space. So crypto, find me there. And I've been purchasing a few, and it is an NFT again. So I would definitely look into it, and I'm gonna be buying more of those. Full disclosure, by the way, this is not financial advice to anyone listening, but it's a space that you really want to keep an eye out for.
For sure, definitely.
But yeah, man, I feel like we've got so much more to discuss anyway, and I need to have you on quite a few more times because there's different areas, especially on NFTs, that I want to focus on more on
Dude,
future
I would
episodes.
love to I would love to come back again, always, and you're always welcome on my show for sure. Let's have some brainstorming sessions as well. I always love hearing your thoughts. Very, very bright guy, always thinking on the edge and trying to reinvent yourself. So keep at it, man.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, brother. I really appreciate you coming on. I actually look forward to being on your podcast again and you coming back on. I think, yeah, we've got way more to discuss. I think this has been tremendously valuable for the people that are going to listen, especially for anyone that wants to get into consulting as well. I mean, that was some great insight to just get an idea of what the things are. Like, we discovered the negative sides of things, but long hours are part of the game. It probably will change in the future, but people do need to kind of pay their dues to get
For
to a
sure.
point of appreciating time more. It's a necessary step, necessary evil you kind of need at the moment. So thank you very much, sir. And where can people find you? I'm obviously going to tag your Instagram and your channel below, but anywhere else, anything else you want them to focus on?
No, that's really all. You can find me on Instagram, Reza Boushehri, but that's with two eyes instead of one. And my podcast is called Conversations with RB on Spotify. If you want to check it out, episode 11 of Past the Small Talk is with Heerbz as well. So check it out.
Check it out, guys. It's a great, great podcast. I really enjoy his episodes. So thank you very much, sir. Reza, I'll be seeing you shortly. And yeah, have a great, what is it, day or evening
Hey,
now?
yeah, yeah. Have a great day too, man. It's good talking to you.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Take care.